like Tony Robbins talks about breaking patterns all the time. I think it's like, you know, we get so isolated, and then you get so anxious, and then you overly check all your inputs, and then, you know, there's never any other creative outlet. You don't have like, and I think it makes people suffer more than it helps. Like guys like Gary Vee are built for what he does. You know what I'm saying? Like he was specifically designed to be a fucking maniac. He's a maniac, and that's his gear, and he loves that gear, and a lot of other people don't have that gear, you know, and then they buy into that hype, and it's like dieting right now, right? It's like the idea of like, you know, carnivore or whatever. I think everybody's sort of unique, and you got to find what works for you, and I think that's one of the problems with entrepreneurship is everyone's trying to make it about a diet program, and it doesn't work that way for everybody.
And also, a lot of people, I don't think they see the headlines, but they don't actually know what goes into being an entrepreneur. And I don't think a lot of people actually want to be an entrepreneur when they find out what it is.
No, it sucks.
So, and with that, Chris, what really, I want you to really break.
Yeah,
we are recording. I'm curious to know, you're a guy that's had success in numerous arenas, starting, I believe you had a financial service company you built, sold, and then you literally were on the road of trying to become a famous comedian and be in movies. And then what I'd love to know is how you went from that mode to then back to startup life and entrepreneurship, and now you've built Koyo's beverage company into a behemoth. What made you, for starters, get into comedy from business and then go back?
Yeah, man, I think it goes back to college. You know, I kind of believed, like everyone else, that if you just go to college and you get a good job, then life will fall into place. And so I fucking bought all that shit, like most of us do, and you know, I got into the world, and I worked really hard, and I'm proud of all the things. So like, preface this by saying I'm super proud and grateful for all the experiences I went through. It started in Amway, believe it or not. I got into a multi-level, which helped change my brain. You know?
Okay.
I read enough books that I realized I could do more than I was capable of, on and on and on. And then I got into finance, started, you know, I was pulling in $500,000 a year plus, and in personal income at 26, you know, pushing $100,000 whip, you know.
Living the life.
Having sex with the Denver Broncos cheerleader, traveling the world.
I remember that.
I remember that whip.
Yeah. The big dog, the Batmobile.
So you were living the high life.
Yeah,
according to the world.
Yeah, but I was miserable. I fucking hated it. I hated it.
What was the biggest thing you hated about it?
It's like we talked earlier before we started recording about don't meet your heroes, right? Like, have you ever met one of your personal heroes and just been totally disappointed?
I haven't. No. In saying that, I don't really have a hero. That's part of my problem. I was telling Dan that.
People you admire?
Yeah, I've been searching for a mentor, I think, for decades indirectly. And that's been part of the issue. I think growing up, I looked up to sports heroes when I wanted to be a sports announcer.
Yeah.
And then things shifted, and lately I've just kind of been like, these are just people.
I got a minor example for you, though. Not that I've actually even met him, but I've always admired Ricky Fowler, golfer.
Yeah.
He seems like the fucking man.
He's probably rad, yeah.
He seems rad, yeah. But there's this golf podcast that I love listening to, and for whatever reason, he won't come on. And it's made me, again, I haven't met him, so it's so different. But like, the fact that he won't come on, I'm like...
What a douche.
But does that give you guys almost comfort and clarity, knowing some hero is just an average Joe that's taking a dump in the morning?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's like when you meet your heroes and you think, you know, I've met people that I admired, and then you spend enough time with them, you're like, oh, this dude beats his wife. Oh, like,
right?
Okay, I don't know why I looked up to you so much and you know, aspired to be that person. I think it's like, they say that because it shatters part of your reality. I think when I got into finance and made all that money and thought I was a big deal, and which, by the way, I hope we get into, it did make me a good entrepreneur. But thought I was a big deal, you know, making all this money. I realized once I hit that level, I was like, I can buy all the shit. Like, I have all the stuff, but I'm alone at night. I'm still unsure of myself. I still have insecurities. I still am afraid little boy about a lot of things. I still, you know, feel like I need to fit in. And money never solved any of that.
So the hot cheerleader, the BMW, none of those things clearly did anything to change that.
No.
So that's all internal.
Not at 26, yeah. I mean, I was still searching for all kinds of shit.
Of course.
Still am, really. I mean, I'm still a mess.
Isn't that what we're all a mess? I think that's part of it too, though, the comfort in knowing I think when I was younger, I used to think there was a direct path to everything. And the last few years, I've embraced the whole notion of improv, where no one really has a fuck what they're
Have
doing.
you though?
Oh yeah, for sure. No, the unknowns of
Have
just.
you?
I'm moving to New York in a week, so I'm more getting at like I used to think.
You're not
everyone-
doing that because you're so like chill about improv. You're doing it because
Not improv, comedy improv. I'm
No,
talking
I
about
get it. Improv in
improv.
life. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Well, I just think there a lot of people are so.
Why do you think he's moving to New York?
you're searching. You think there's not enough pussy or people or money or you're searching. You've hit a plateau and you think New York's gonna settle all those issues and it won't.
No, that's actually not the reason.
Come on.
No, I'm not kidding, man.
What's the reason?
I think it provides me more opportunities to do me. Like I think
Like what?
I'm a big city kid at heart. Like I've always wanted. I was born in New York, and when I
Prove
think,
it.
well, I'm going to. So.
It's good.
I know. But I think for me too, I've just been one of those. It's in your DNA. That whole chip on your shoulder, relentless, just waking up and wanting it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I can't help that. That's how I'm hardwired. I need the beeping. I at least need to try it. I think it's not something I'm like
That's
committed
fair.
to long
That's
term.
fair. Yeah,
You know?
man, yeah.
So
You kind of also both said the same thing when you think about it. Like you just said you're moving there because it's where you're gonna have the most opportunity. He broke down the opportunity into like specific segments.
Uh-huh.
More money, more pussy. I mean, those are the different things of opportunity.
yeah,
Right?
I'm definitely, and I'm a person. I'm not. It's weird because I'm not materialistic driven. I hate objects. Like I don't even own a watch, but I do love winning.
Yeah.
I'm a massive competitor. I think for me, it's about.
Yeah, you're addicted, bro.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I
Yeah.
can't stand the worst loser. Growing up, running off baseball fields when we lose games. My parents were like, "What's wrong with
Oh,
you?"
I'll shut the Xbox down.
Yeah.
Someone-
So I think that's
I'll
part of
turn
it
it
too.
off.
And it's tough because it's almost one of those things. It's like, what are you being competitive about? But to discover, to
Yeah.
learn. I think being ever curious is part of it too.
Yeah.
That
I heard
melting
someone say
pot.
once, you're never happy. People aren't happy unless they're progressing. I think males like us, like I said it before we were recording, we're all cocky and egotistical and
Mhm.
crazy. And I used to always think progression was financial.
Okay.
That was the only score I could keep. Until I started realizing like progression could be like learning a new language, getting better at golf. There's a lot of ways you can progress, but
Oh,
don't
yeah.
yeah. And
As a human.
That's been a hard lesson for me to learn. Like, there's parts of Koyos where I'm like, I could get back into the financial world, make $1 million a year
Uh-huh.
with my eyes closed. And I've taken it. I still make six figures, but it's not. It's not a salary that. Sometimes Koyos is so hard that I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this?
Uh-huh.
The fuck am I doing
And why are
this
you?
much? I have no idea sometimes. I'll give you the we had this conversation the other night up at Vail with a few friends, and it's like, you know why? Because what I was doing before was so service driven. It was a lot of it's bullshit. If any of you are listening to this and you ever work with a financial advisor, just be really fucking careful.
Uh-huh.
I would recommend Tony Robbins' book, who he interviewed some of the top guys in the world on personal finance. I think that should be your Bible if you're trying to invest, and then move on from there. But with that being said, what Koyos does and what we can do is amazing. First of all, we invented a product which is rare. Most people never do that, so we got to flex our creative muscle there.
Can you take us through how that even came about?
Yeah. We sell a product nationwide. We get 100 messages a day from people from Charleston to New York to Cheyenne who are drinking our product, getting benefit, and it's bettering their lives. There's something really tangible and amazing about that, right? Like
For sure.
that I never found in anything financial or service related. The other thing that's fun about Koyos, being an athlete my whole life, is we get to work with and be a part of some of the best sporting events in the world.
It's
Like,
as
we-
close as you can get to owning a team. I remember you telling me that, which was
Well
really
said.
fascinating. Yeah.
Like I always wanted to own a team. I hate admitting it out loud. I probably never will get there because you have to also be royalty in this country. You can't just be rich and buy
Or
a team.
Gary Vee, maybe.
Yeah.
We'll see if he
I'd be so pissed hearing you say that you'll never own a team.
Who would?
Gary Vee.
Yeah, I know, but like we've talked about before, I know my role. To own a team, you have to be in the billionaire status, which is probably not going to happen, right?
Uh-huh.
Now I can sit here and fucking lie to myself and kill myself to get there, and it might happen, but I doubt it, right?
I don't know your situation.
And then you have to be. Yeah, no, it's not amazing. I mean, if we cash out, I make 40 million.
I mean, that's a good start.
Yeah, but I'm already 40. Like, how hard do I really want to fucking kill myself?
You could have a box.
But that's the whole.
Stadium.
But that's the whole point too. When is enough enough? So say you
I don't
cash
know.
out, make $20 million.
I haven't solved for that.
Is that though a point where you're like, I'm done building? Like, what separates the financial end of that and that intrinsic? Because you could tell you create value for people to better their lives. You love that. That's not financial.
No, totally. And yeah, like I'd love to have a compound here where we, like On It or Muscle Farm, where we have athletes from all over the world come, and I love personally pushing myself, so I'd love to have some of the best people in the world who are the best at what they do, pushing me physically even into my 60s. Like I would love that. Like, why would I not want to be a part of that? I also love being around winners. I love being around people who like I'd love to hang out with Ricky just because he's probably, the way he thinks is different. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're having Cheetos with that dude or nachos at the bar, he probably doesn't, his mentality is going to rub off in a way. And I love that. I love being around people who think, do different shit. It's just exciting, right? It's not like an ego thing or like, it's just like, again, those people just think different. Like imagine having a conversation over cigars and booze with Elon Musk. We're talking about, most of the time we're talking about girls, right? He's talking about colonizing a fucking another planet.
And going underground,
and he means
speeding
it.
up
He
traffic.
fucking means it. Like, can you imagine like sitting with him? And he's like, hey, so I've been thinking I'm gonna colonize Saturn. And you're like, what the fuck? I'm worried about how to pay my taxes next year.
Yeah.
And like where that 50 grand's gonna come from. And you're talking about.
Yeah.
The guy's insane.
But on the other end of that, does that guy ever just chill and be like, I'm gonna go grab a pizza? Where does he have any relaxation in his mind?
According to himself, he cannot.
No, but that's to my earlier
So,
point. Him and Gary Vee have that thing in them. And some people just don't. You just don't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, or for instance, some people just will never give up other things, right? Like, I confronted my brother the other day because he's like depressed about his situation. And I was like, bro, you'll never be a millionaire entrepreneur. You just won't. It's not in your deck. And he was like, why? And I was like, because you haven't come to grips with the fact that if that's your choice, you're not going to be the best father, or you're not going to be the best golfer, or you're not going to be the most fit. You can't have it all. Mm-hmm. You just can't. You're not that talented.
Hey, I mean, people make
not
decisions too.
I think everyone thinks they can do all those things, and I don't think it's possible. Unless you're The Rock and you started in wrestling and you already had that foundation, and then you have 150 million followers. That guy can shit out a business right now and everyone will go buy it and it'll be successful.
Of course.
He's going to launch this tequila, which he did, and it's going to sell for $1 billion in 3 years. And it's going to make me incredibly jealous.
George Clooney status.
Same, yeah. I mean, some of those guys just have all that, but like...
But even those guys, they had to work to get there, to have that credibility.
Yeah,
you know?
There's stories of George Clooney like hanging out on lots for a whole day, like sleeping in the street to meet an executive producer or something. Most people don't have that in them.
Well, I think that's part of the problem in today's culture where you get an Uber with a click of a finger and people see a headline of someone getting acquired for $100 million and they're like, oh, I'm going to start this tomorrow. Next year I'll be paid.
Yeah.
And that's that disconnect where...
I did that in comedy. I thought I was going to write a film and fucking be...
Well, there you go.
In 2 years.
But then you set a bar that's not even realistic sometimes, and that's what leads to that downward spiral.
Yeah.
Where then people get down and out and they're like, oh, what's going on? It's like, well, you set an expectation that wasn't real.
Yeah.
That was a fantasy.
I also think like part of what you're kind of saying is people, in order to like really make it, you have to go all in. And you almost like can't even have...
But what does that mean? Like, what is it? I'm not challenging you. I'm genuinely curious. Like, what does all in mean today?
Well, based on what you just said, like you can't really have too successful of a business if you're also going to have like a really healthy relationship and be good at golf. You kind of have to choose one and go hard on it.
I think.
I agree completely.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think there's something to be said for that because even...
Humans suck at multitasking, let's be real. Anyone can, anyone that thinks they're a good multitasker is full of shit. Because you can only do one thing great at a time. Own a niche, whatever it is. Look at you with Fit Soda, Hoyos.
I agree.
You're owning that one thing. It's been us with food delivery for a while.
That took me a long fucking time to learn though. Like a lot of heartache, a lot of stress, a lot of gain weight, a lot of pressure on myself because I was like, why can't I be the fittest, richest, having the most sex, being the happiest person ever? Because it was always told to me in like Amway tapes and books I would read, and it's like, you can have it all, and blah, 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 blah. And then I would get depressed when I'd be like, yeah, the business is good, but I haven't seen my parents in 3 months.
Yeah.
I don't have any fucking friends anymore. I don't even know what it's like to have bros and like go hunting or whatever dudes do. And if I'm willing to admit it, I'm probably a little depressed.
The imbalance.
It sucks.
Yeah, and that's part of that.
I'm almost 40. I mean, it took me 40 years to fucking figure out.
Well, I think humans are herd species. Like, we are at the top of the food chain due to that, of being able to cooperate and be around each other. I think entrepreneurship, we've seen it over the years. It's a lot, and that's part of why I'm moving to New York, to be real with you. No, the isolation.
Here, fuck.
No.
Just
But no, what you're talking about, spot on, that lonely island thing, where entrepreneurship, people don't get that end of it. Where
it's really dangerous too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For mental health.
Especially because everyone's in their own head more times than not in the world. In life, you're talking to yourself internally.
Even this is cathartic. Like, taking time on a Friday to just sit here and chat.
This is awesome.
It's dope.
It is.
And yeah, you get to flesh shit out and you feel good and you connect and like we just don't even,
We always talk about that when we do grab dinner too. Like, why don't we do this more often?
Yeah, you probably boys do it with golf too. Like, why don't we do this more? Like, I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
Well, that's the one thing about golf. We do it all the fucking time.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we're out there and we're like.
Wait, Dan was sharing like, what do you feel is like all in?
So no, I was literally saying that I agree with you in the sense that, and I don't even think I ever realized it until you just broke it down, but if all you have in life is your business, you're going to do way better at it than if you also have a girlfriend and you also have golf. I mean, there's been times when I'm playing golf 6 days a week and I fucking love it. And I get home and I'm chilling and I'm not really thinking about the business that much because it's just like my mind's wrapped around golf.
Right.
Or even Charleston, like my girlfriend, I'm gonna be living with her down there, and when I'm around her, I'm not necessarily thinking about the business quite as much because I'm just like thinking about my relationship a little bit, and it's just like one thing at a time. So yeah, that's what I mean is you look at the people like Elon. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I don't really fully know all their stories, but it's almost like these people are so tunnel vision where they don't have a life, and they get to the point where who even knows if they're happy.
But, dude, Elon. To your point, you make a good point. Elon's parents thought he was deaf. You can Google this. That he was deaf when he was a kid because he gets so focused on reading.
Yeah, he read like 9 books a day sometimes. Yeah.
Most of us don't, like, especially people who have never played sports or like you've never been fully committed to something. You have no idea what it takes.
No, you don't.
And here's one, like, I freak Gina and my partners out because I get real excited. Like, I'll read books and I get fucking whipped out on ideas and people. And so, like, Abe Lincoln, George Washington, some of these guys are my heroes. And it's not because necessarily they were like war heroes or whatever, or like super macho. It's because they were so steadfast in whatever it is that they were trying to do. And now as a CEO who has investors and shareholders and people and teams, and I understand the pressure more than ever, or even like a U.S. president. It doesn't matter if you're a Barack or Trump, it doesn't really matter. But the amount that those guys deal with. So here's one. Movie everyone should see is Dark Waters. I just saw it, Mark Ruffalo. It's about this attorney who's a defense attorney.
Okay.
Defended chemical companies. That was his litigator. Super successful guy. Has a person from his old hometown in West Virginia come to him and say, we think DuPont Chemical is dumping chemicals into this place and everyone's messed up. Cancer, deformities, all this stuff. So this guy like starts looking into the case. He finally decides to bring suit to DuPont. DuPont kind of blows him off. DuPont just did a $180 billion merger. Do you understand how big that is?
It's a joke.
Dude,
yeah, they print cash.
Yeah, it's nuts.
I understand, but I don't.
Yeah, it's massive. I mean, to do a $160 billion, it's probably one of the biggest mergers in the history of U.S. business. It's massive.
Yeah.
And they're a legacy company. They're not new money. It's not like Google. They've been around for. Those people are royalty. It's a 200-year-old thing, right? So he sues them, and then they send discovery, which is like fills up this entire 2,000 square foot apartment, and he commits to it, and commits to it to the point that I'm so fascinated with this guy. I want to meet him in real life. He finds out that DuPont knowingly poisoned the American public for 50 years in their own evidence. The fact that we all have C8 in our blood, which is the most terrible biochemical on earth that causes, they've emphatically linked it to cancer of every kind, testicular, throat, ovarian. They were dumping so much poison into the city in West Virginia that people were being born with deformities, dying on the spot. Entire livestock herds went away. And they knew it. They knew emphatically that it was happening. So he brings this suit. Fast forward 20 years later, he's still fighting it. Lost like almost his family, his practice, but eventually got $1 billion settlement, helped all these people live better lives. My question to anybody listening, or even you guys, is how hard are you willing to send it? How fucking committed are you to a thing or an idea that you would give up your family, your time, your associations, your free time, your parties, sex, drugs, to the point where, Abe Lincoln's another one. Imagine sitting around your team with your boys running a country, and they're like, bro, the South said they'll do peace if we just don't abolish slavery. They're not saying, but then let's make a concession. We can say that slavery is not X, but we're not going to totally abolish it. We'll have peace. American people don't need to die anymore. Would you take that deal? And your boy was like, look, we'll abolish slavery 3 years from now. When we run the next term, we'll get rid of it. To be so fucking gangster, you're like, no, we're going to continue to fight this war until we abolish slavery, knowing every day that people are fucking dying.
Yeah.
On top of that, Lincoln also had office hours where U.S. citizens, normal fucking people, could walk in and be like, hey, Dan, or sorry, Mr. President, look, my neighbor's being a real dick. We're having a dispute over our land. Could you look into it? And he'd be like, yeah, I'll have my people look into it. Imagine how much pressure that guy dealt with on a daily basis. On top of the fact that his wife was fucking nuts. To be so fucking gangster in your vision that you're like, no. What if every day you got a report and it's like 50,000 people died because of low-del delivery today? You're like, we have a purpose.
Yeah.
Imagine doing that for a decade.
Yeah.
So what is a full send? What is full fucking commitment? Most people who may ever hear this don't have that in them.
Yeah.
You just don't.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so what is all in? I think it varies, but I think the guys who, like the Elon Musks, the guys who, you said something smart, you read trade magazines and people are like, I could build a company and sell it for $200 million. You probably can't.
Yeah.
Because you're not willing to let go of, would you sleep in a van for 6 years? Would you fucking not have a sexual partner for the next decade? Would you not? And I don't think most people would ever do that, so.
Yeah, I think it requires a maniacal.
That was a lot to
Yeah,
digest.
a lot to digest there. But no, that was all very great knowledge. It was deep.
But those
and
guys are
it's
heroes to me. I mean, imagine like I get flustered when like shareholders get a little pissed off, and I like, I'm like, oh, maybe we end.
And no one's dying. Yeah. No, I think it requires
fluctuations in the stock market. Like, how much of a pussy am I?
I think a lot of that too is, it's like anything, when you look back at those days with Lincoln, you reach a point of, and we've seen in our business with resilience that you build up, where something hits you over and over again and it transforms you.
Here's the next mind fuck. When is it time to fold?
Well, that's what, before we started recording, that was what I brought up to you. Like, when did you know it was time to move on from comedy? When was there a day you woke up and you had an aha Jesus moment?
Yeah, I still haven't let go of it,
So is that something you might get back into?
Probably not like performing. Maybe like open mics, but I don't know. Open mics are, they're so depressing. It's
They are.
the worst.
Yeah.
What do you mean though? Dude, you used to kill it at that.
Yeah, no, I mean, so like.
The misery of it.
Yeah, how did I know?
No, not how'd you know. I'm sure you know. Like, what do you mean they were depressed?
No, not how did I know I was killing it. How did I know to quit?
Yeah. Because that's always the biggest question.
Yeah, no, I mean, how did I know to quit? So my last show was with TJ Miller for 2,000 people.
The one where he just went off the deep end?
Yeah, it was fucking a shit show. I hope he hears this too. He won't, but I hope he hears it. Fucking worst thing I've ever seen.
We're gonna send him this clip.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
Fuck you, TJ.
Yeah, fuck off.
I haven't seen that guy since that fucking show on HBO.
Yeah.
Kicked off.
Oh, he had a meltdown. He called in a bomb threat on a train in New York. You guy's a mess.
Clearly he's got some issues.
Yeah, no, he does. Yeah, how do you know to quit? So I started late, and then I came from making all this money, and unfortunately I have people in my family that rely on me for certain things, and number one, that the lifestyle of comedy is super depressing and super sad, which is why a lot of comedians are dark, twisted motherfuckers. Like, you ever hang out with comedians, and a lot of like guys like Louis, Bill Burr, some of these guys they're dark, and it's dark because you'll do a show at Comedy Works for 300 people and smash, and then the next night you do a show at a biker bar in Cheyenne for a bunch of meth heads, which I've done, and someone tries to fight you. Nobody laughs, and then you're in a car by yourself, and you didn't make any money, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
No one paid you. You got a few beers out of it if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a lot like entrepreneurialism, you know, and then you drive up to Cheyenne, you know, over to Laramie, and you do another show for a bunch of retired people that someone booked for you, and you don't get any laughs, and you bomb for a half an hour, and you still don't get paid, and then you get back and then maybe you link up with another comedian in Denver, and you do a few more shows, and then you stay in shitty hotels, and you're always in shitty dive bars, and you know, a lot of those guys and girls are tough to be around. Like, comics and creative people are really hard to spend time with, and so the lifestyle is super hard. It's super rough. You know, these guys travel all over the world and country and make 20 grand a year. And
did you know it was going to be like that when you got into it at all? So was that beyond eye-opening?
No, I did the thing that like young cocky kids do, and I was like, I'll get into comedy and fucking kill it. By the time I'm 30, I'll be a touring comedian, and I'll write a film, and fucking Seth Rogen will call, and we'll be boys, and you know, I thought all that stuff, and and none of it happened. I know comedians who had full-blown TV shows for 3 years and still have a hard time booking gigs.
It's a brutal industry.
So
to your
harsh.
credit, I wouldn't say none of it happened. You got to the point where you had T.J. Miller come on your show.
Yeah, no, dude, we ton of success in that world. You know, like had a couple radio shows, wrote a film that got optioned.
No, and I remember even when you stopped, it wasn't like you had hit a wall with success. It seemed like you were it was ready for a change.
I think I looked at the horizon and I was like, I don't know if I'm willing to put in. So how did I know I wanted to quit? I looked at the next 10 years of my life. So I was roughly like 32 at the time, and I was like, I don't want to be 44. I don't want to put in the time at comedy, in dive bars, you know, eating shit. Never feeling funny, by the way. Never feel funny.
At all.
Like, there's nights you kill it and you're like, I'm the shit. And then for the next 2 weeks, you're like, I'm not funny. I was a fluke.
That plays on Larimer, though. Every night, I feel like. Not every night, you did it once a week.
Uno Comedy.
Chris Miller.
Yeah, the Chris Miller show.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, it was fun. But yeah, you have a lot of nights there where you eat shit. I mean, again, it's like golf. You get good at golf, and you have 1 week where you're like, I could play on the tour. And then there's a month follow that where you're like, this is the worst fucking game. I don't even know why I do this.
Yeah.
Other than to drink beer in the golf cart.
Yeah.
Because I'm terrible at this.
No, it's actually a good comparison.
Yeah.
With that.
So you were able to actually have the foresight where you looked ahead at 32, being like, oh, I'm looking at the next decade plus. And you actually were able to have the maturity to be like, this doesn't make sense for me anymore.
To a degree. Koyo started as a way to make passive income, which is another horseshit thing that internet gurus tell people.
Thank you for bringing that up, by the way. I'm so sick of hearing about passive income. It is a load.
Let's break down what this even means, passive income.
It's nothing. It's literally a way to not make a living and pretend that you're hustling without putting in the time necessary. When you really
The Amway folks used to teach it. Build a big enough business, you can. And I met guys who had $50,000 a month incomes that had been doing it for 10 years that didn't have an office, didn't work a lot. I was like, oh, that seems dope. I want that. I want to live like a drug dealer.
So we're talking about like the Tim Ferriss method here.
Yeah, that's another guy. Like, I read his book and it fucked my world up. Because I was too stupid to realize at the time I don't have Tim's skill set. Tim is a fucking gangster. That guy is so methodical.
And it's crazy.
So to do what he did, so how Koyo started is I was literally trying to copy Tim Ferriss. Because I'm that unoriginal.
But you know what? On that point, everyone, when you think about Kobe Bryant, he copied Michael Jordan to a T. You need to copy people before you.
I read his thing, and then I was into Noah. He has AppSumo. I was into his shit, and I was like, oh yeah, I could build a supplement the way I want it, and it came from a lot of health issues I had, and I was like, oh yeah, and I'll just throw it online, and I'll make a couple G's a month, and then I can still do whip comedy and be creative, and you know, I always joke with Mike about being a drunk poet, and I could flex my creativity and be a weirdo, and then it got too big, and then we needed more money, and then it snowballed into. Now, granted, we're passionate about it, but it started as a way just to make what I thought would be passive income.
So you basically copied Tim Ferriss's method, and look at where you are today. That must have gone somewhere.
Wait, real quick. Tim Ferriss with 4 Hour Work Week. Are you saying he actually made supplements?
Yeah, that's how he started.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, that was his first online business, the supplements.
That was like the big thing I was trying to figure out. Where I'm like, cool, like you had this income.
Well, that's what I brought up on our podcast, that what he did at first, he started a business and was making good money but hated it.
And the business was selling supplements.
Yep.
So that's where you were like, oh, I could sell supplements.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, get back to what you were saying now. I just had to clear that up.
Yeah, no, and it took a long time to figure out, and then like, you know, Tim made it in his book. If you reread it, it's like, no. And then I called, you know, I had some distributors nationwide, and they're like, that's not a thing anymore. Like, you don't just pick up distributors. You know, and then he's like, you know, and then I picked the 1 or 2 that were doing well, and then I just took off. Like, like I never figured that out.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool. That's also fascinating that you bring up the point that a lot of these books, I think people read books on entrepreneurs and they don't think about what their actual skill sets are, what their lanes are, and they'll be like, oh, let me just mirror this guy. And it's like, wait a minute, you're not good in front of people though. How are you going to be public speaking? So I think that's a big disconnect these days, is someone thinks they can read a book on Gary Vee
You know what it
or
is?
Tim Ferriss.
You know what it is? Like, I think you two have done a good job of always being authentic. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think entrepreneurialism, comedy, music, if you look for being a great chef, like a Michelin star chef, an entrepreneur, Gary's a good example. So I'll give you a few examples. What I think the reality is that until you find your voice, you're never going to really be good at what you do. And so really good, at the top of your fucking game. So what do I mean by that? Like, chefs will copy chefs and then struggle in the restaurant and then just try to copy. And instead of being willing to let out who you really are and be comfortable with the consequences of whatever that is, you're gonna suffer. So like I've seen guys walk up to Gary and go, "Hey man, I'm just, you know, my content or whatever," and he like kind of browbeats him a little bit, and it's like, your content's never gonna be like Gary Vee. You're never gonna be that. You're never gonna be that fucking guy.
Yeah.
It's so fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Maybe you're quiet. Maybe you're into golf, and your videos don't need to be so fucking spazzy and weird.
With his venti coffee and everything.
Yeah, fuck, bro. When people try to copy Gary Vee, that guy, you're gonna fucking suffer, right?
Yeah,
so,
you are. It's like trying to follow a Kenyan marathon runner and be like, oh, I could keep pace with 450 miles.
You know why the best comedians in the world, when you see them and you're so attracted to that bravado and like how comfortable it's because those guys have found their voice.
They're in their own skin though. That's them.
Yeah.
They're being them.
That's their jokes. That's their humor. That, you know.
Like Zach Galifianakis is a perfect example. It's
Yeah.
like that guy is being himself 24/7. And people are like, oh, I want to be like funny like him. It's like, dude, do you know what goes on in that dude's head? You don't want to be like him. Trust me.
He seems depressed.
Yeah, but that's where people lose themselves constantly. And you're right. I think we're all authentic like that. We know ourselves and we're just genuine.
I still struggle with it.
But Chris, you have the self-awareness, but overall, you're as authentic as it gets when like you're real with people. When you meet someone, you don't sugarcoat shit.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think you make a good point. Like when people read books, like I used to fall prey to it all the time. Like I read a book and I'm like, this is Bible. Like if I do this, then I will get the same result and all.
Oh, you and me both.
Instead of reading it and going, hey, maybe this doesn't work for my style or like who I am, or like I've had to face hard truths in life. Like I'm not, you know, I got organized because I'm the CEO of a public company, but like there's just certain things. Like right now, like I know I couldn't be a good CFO. It's not my skill set.
But that's important to know that you're not a CFO, because a lot of times that's a thing that people can't distinguish.
4 years ago, I was like, I'll be a CEO. I'll be a CFO.
Yeah.
You're definitely right though. These books, no one ever talks about that, like what these people preach in these, I guess I'm gonna call them self-help books or business books. It's like not actually achievable for most people, and it almost makes you feel depressed because it's like, who's getting up at 4:30 a.m. like Jocko Willink doing fucking push-ups?
Dude.
And then you get up at 8:30 and you see his Instagram and you're like, fuck,
I'm a piece of shit.
Yeah, and you're not.
Bro,
Just
you
like,
just said
that's
something
not
so
you.
wise.
You're dead on. And
Yeah.
meanwhile, Jocko Willink can't
about
write.
it. You're like, I'm not doing as many posts as Gary. I'm not like Jocko can get up at 4 and I can't. And it makes you feel like a dirtbag.
Definitely.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I think that causes more
Comparisons. That's the problem.
My brother's depressed right now because I guarantee you every day he wakes up and he thinks, I'm not crushing articles every second and also crushing my practice and also crushing being a dad. And then I see this guy and he's fucking got a book on it and it makes you even more neurotic.
Tell him to just look up at the stars. That's what literally, whenever, and that's one, I can't really do that here, but I think that's something that gives me peace of mind whenever I'm thinking in that way at all, where I'm just like overwhelmed with the process. I'm like, why? This is not an actual problem. In the scheme of things, like this is nothing.
For sure.
And then I go back, I take a breath, it's like, okay, like that's cool. That helps me. Back in the day when I would think like that, it would be scary. I'm like, oh, I'm nothing. Now I almost look at that as tranquility.
We're all gonna die and turn to ashes.
Yeah, so it's like, why the fuck am I getting worked up over some asshole restaurant owner? Like the other day, Buccetto's owner hitting me up, threatening to get off our site. I got so pissed and called him out on the phone. He ended up feeling like an idiot. But at the end of the day, after the call, I'm like, why did that even get to me? Like, who gives a shit?
Do you suffer from? You seem like a pretty chill guy. Do you suffer from like anxieties like that? Like, I'm not crushing it as hard as I should be, or
sometimes, yeah, for sure.
Where do you think the anxiety comes from? Like,
I think it comes from social media. It's like if you took away these people that I didn't even know existed like a year and a half ago, I just wouldn't even be thinking like that.
Yeah.
You know, and it comes from like people like Gary Vee, Jocko Willink, who like I think have enough self-awareness like with us to like kind of make fun of it, but at the same time, you're still seeing it and you're still comparing it to your life, and those people rarely actually put shit up that's like when do you actually have
a bad day?
Yeah.
When did you shit your pants and felt like shit and cried and like you just didn't get out of bed?
Well, that's why Dan brought that good point earlier when we were talking about trying to write an ebook. He's like, dude, we should write about the timing of getting hit hard by Uber and DoorDash, where most people are not being transparent about anything.
It's like, let's write an ebook instead of like, oh, here's how you market, whatever. Let's write an ebook about like, yo, we brought a couple people into this industry and watched them get a buyout when ours kind of never happened.
I didn't know that. That's that's hard.
Oh, dude, our story, which we don't talk about that often, and I feel like part of the reason is we're like maybe a little embarrassed or afraid to like but at the end of the day, I'm starting to realize I've gotten past the point. For a while, I was like, fuck, like my best friend who I got into this sold his site for like $3.5 million when we just weren't able to do it, even though our sites were kind of bigger at the time.
We never had an opportunity.
That
that
definitely fucked me up. And they all got out. And it was like right before